Hello everyone, and today I am going to read to you, I think, is the best story of Little Misses ever. So this book's name is Little Miss Inventor and the Robots. But I want to tell you, it's not from the real Mr. Men series, and it's not really illustrated by Roger Hargraves and written by Roger Hargraves now. It is actually written and illustrated by Adam Hargraves. So let's start the book. Hope you really enjoyed it. Little Miss Inventor was always inventing new gadgets to make life easier. She had a tea making gadget, a toast buttering gadget, and a breakfast conveyor gadget that brought her breakfast in bed. And these are the gadgets that she had invented for making breakfast. There were many more, so many in fact that she could hardly move for gadgets. One morning, while she was waiting in bed for all her gadgets to do her work, she suddenly had a thought, what you might call a brainwave. What if she could combine all her gadgets into one machine? A robot! After breakfast, she set to work in her workshop at the bottom of her garden. She welded and screwed and calculated and hammered and measured and soldered until she had invented her very first robot, the HelpBot. It was a marvel, and it replaced all her other gadgets. Can you guess who it was inspired by? Of course, Little Miss. Yes, helpful. The next morning, the HelpBot made tea and buttered toast and pulled oranges and put everything on a tray and took breakfast up to Little Miss Inventor in bed. Or it would have done, but Little Miss Inventor had forgot one thing, the staircase. It was back to the drawing board for Little Miss Inventor, but it did not take her long to solve the problem. The HelpBot 2.0 worked like a dream. The next day, after breakfast in bed, Little Miss Inventor went out for a walk, and as she passed a certain person's house, an extraordinary long arm reached out of the upstairs window. I'm sure you can guess who that arm belonged to. That's right, it was Mr. Tickles. And Mr. Tickles' extraordinary long arm tickled Little Miss Inventor. Tee-hee-hee, she laughed. Further on, Little Miss Inventor felt a bump on her head, and there was a crash. It was Mr. Tall. He was so tall that he had not seen Little Miss Inventor, and he had tripped over her. That evening, another thought occurred to Little Miss Inventor. Mr. Tickle's arms could be very useful if they did not tickle you, and Mr. Tall's legs could be very useful if they did not trip over you, and so she invented the StrongBot. A robot that could clean gutters, wash upstairs windows, and clip the hedges. A robot that could feed the giraffe at the zoo. Wow, amazing. The next day, while watching Mr. Strong help Farmer Field bring in the hay, Little Miss Inventor had another idea for a robot, the StrongBot. It was magnificently strong, and it was stupendously strong. It even helped Mr. Funny move house, literally. Little Miss Inventor quickly realized that there were all sorts of robots that she could make for all sorts of people. After tea at Mr. Messie's house, she made him a fussy bot, inspired by Mr. Fussy, a robot which scrubbed the house until it was as clean as a new pin. After a failed supper at Mr. Lazy's house, she invented the Greedy Bot, inspired by Mr. Greedy, a robot that was a great chef. And after waiting for an age for Little Miss late, she invented the RushBot based on Mr. Rush, a self-drive car that was never late. Little Miss Inventor was very pleased with all her robots. However, her friends were not so pleased. The fussybot never stopped cleaning. Mr. Messy could not move without it swooping down and cleaning up after him. He ended up stuck in the corner, unable to move for all the constant cleaning. The greedy bot was an amazing chef, but it also had an amazing appetite. It ate everything it cooked. Poor Mr. Lazy. And the RushBot was always on time, but it was in such a rush to leave that little Miss was always left behind. And then there were some robots that even little Miss Inventor had to admit were a mistake, like the ChatterBot and the BounceBot and the DotBot. And then she invented the BossyBot, a robot to take charge, a robot to ensure that everyone behaved. And the BossyBot did take charge. It took charge of Mr. Rude and Mr. Grumpy and Little Miss Naughty, which was all well and good, but then it went a step too far. Or more accurately, a wheel too far. It stopped Mr. Funny making jokes. It stopped Little Miss hugging. And it stopped Little Miss Giggles giggling. Then, to make matters even worse, the BossyBot took charge of all of Little Miss Inventor's other robots. A whole team of robots. The StrongBot tied Mr. Tickles up in knots. The BounceBot bounced Mr. Bump.
It is so funny. Even it made me laugh.
The StrongBot parked Little Miss Sunshine's car in a tree. The fussybot tried to vacuum up Little Miss Tiny. The greedy bot ate all the food in the town. It was chose. The robots had taken over. Even Little Miss Inventor's HelpBot was far from helpful. Little Miss Inventor could not believe her eyes. What had she done? What could she do? And then she had an idea. She hurried down to her shed and invented a stop button. And the stop button worked. So I just wanted to tell you that you might have liked the story, you might have not, but the most funniest part I find is when it says a stop button and the stop button worked. That's the funniest bit I find. Also, at the back now, you can see Little Miss Bossy with her microphone, and you can see the fussybot is trying to vacuum up Little Miss Tiny, and the RushBot is running in front of Little Miss Lake. And then on the front cover, you can see Little Miss Inventor, the StrongBot, the StrongBot and the BounceBot on the front cover. And you can also see that on the front it's written Little Miss Inventor and the robots. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and see you in the next video, which might be a fact video. Bye bye for now.